Hi, I'd like to introduce you to our very first Power Apps project. So it's going to use a number of skills. It's called Hangman for Kids, but it's a really safe word game that children can use. Essentially, you create a 5-letter word and someone has to get it. They get a number of guesses, and if they get it, then they get to be the winner. Now, all the resources associated with this are actually going to be shown in the link below. So you'll find out about the len function, global variables. I'm trying to remember now. Yeah, there's all the functions that we need for this to work are shown down below. So make sure if you're not entirely sure about what's going on that you look down there. And there's also, you can get a straight download for this down the bottom as well. So I'm now going to hand over to the live session where Laura shows how to build this from completely blank Power Apps edition. So let's move over there.
This is a really simple hangman game, okay? You have to come up with a word that's 5 letters long, okay? So this is, somebody sets the game up. So let's put in the word power as Power Apps. Okay, and then you click the start game. And let me minimize that bit. And there we are, we've got our 5 dashes, and I've got a box here I can type a letter into. So if we put in the letter A, I can get a guess, and it tells me what I've guessed so far. Okay. But if I put in a letter that I know is in there and I press guess, there you are, it puts it in the right place. So just to make this a little bit quicker, I'm just going to, because I'm cheating a little bit because I know what the answer is. Yeah. And if we put in the R and the P and I press guess, there we are, we've got a winner. Okay.
Brilliant.
So that's what we're going to build. I'm going to take it nice and steady. If you've got any questions, please interrupt me, okay, or put them in the chat. And if somebody can keep a vague eye on chat, that would be great.
Yeah, I'm looking at the chat.
Fantastic. So what we're going to do is I'm going to close this one, and we're going to go for creating an app. And I'm going to go.
Wow. She's going for it. She's going from blank.
Of course. I do for every. Oh, that's not what I want.
This is the kind of like, yeah, this is the kind of ninja app building whilst in presentations.
I do. Yeah. Let's not talk about doing conferences. So. I timed myself earlier on creating it. And if the demo gods would please be good, that would be nice.
So we will be putting this up. It probably takes us a couple of days for us to put the videos for this up. So if you haven't kind of quite caught everything, then the video, you'll be able to return to the video and then be able to see that, the steps that have been taken already.
And we'll find somewhere to put the final app up as well.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, we've got a GitHub for Power Apps for Kids, and we'll be able to pop it in there. So, yeah, that'll go up there.
Okay, so here we are in our app. The first thing we're going to do is I'm just going to rename this screen. So I'm going to double click over here on the left, and I'm going to call this screen setup. Right, so this is the screen that people enter in things to begin with. So we want some 5 text boxes that they can put a letter in each one. So I'm going to go to the insert ribbon and I'm going to insert text input. And there we go, there's my text input. Couple of things. I want it to be kind of big and square, so I'm going to resize it. And then I am going to make the text bigger. So on the home ribbon, there's formatting things. So I can make the text bigger. I could pick a different font, all sorts of things. All right. And I'm going to make it be in the middle as well. Now it has some default text that says text input. Now, one quick way to find it, you can either go and look down here, or what I think is easier is over here. It says default, the first one at the top here. If I click on there, there you are, it puts it at the top there. And I actually want it to not have any default. So I'm going to take out all the text. You can leave the double quotes in there, or you can take them away, right? So that's my box. If I press play in the top right hand corner, I can put a letter in there, and that works.
Yeah, I also need iPad. That's one. Yeah, I know.
So
another
the
one.
other part we can do, because we don't want anybody to put two letters in there. There's a really nice, easy one in here called max length. So they're alphabetical, those properties. So I'm going to put the max length in as 1. And now when I go to press play, if I try to type in another letter, it just doesn't let me type it in. Okay? So you do all that work to set that one up. And I'm going to rename it. Naming things is really important. Name it things you're going to remember. So I'm going to call that one letter. Now, I don't want to have to, I want 5 letters. I don't want to do that 5 times. So what we do is I do a right click and I do a copy. And that copies it onto a thing called clipboard. And then I can do a right click somewhere else on the screen and do a paste. And there you are, I've got a box. Okay. And if I do that a few more times, what it also does is it nicely names them for you. Okay, so if you remember, I called this one up here letter. But each of these have been named letter 1, letter 2, letter 3. And I'm going to do I'm going to do a right click and a paste. And a right click and a paste. And actually, this one that I created at the beginning that didn't have a number, I'm going to say goodbye to. Get rid of it. Cut, or I could click delete, whichever, right? So that means, so somebody give me a 5-letter word. One of the adults.
Robin, do you know a 5-letter word?
Yes.
What's a 5-letter word?
Robin.
Ah,
That's a really good one. I like that. Thank you, Robin. I spelt it right. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. That's my name.
Just checking. I'm not the best speller in the world. So once they've entered in that, I need a button underneath to say, right now, play the game. So we're going to insert a button. And if you double click on the button, you can edit the text. So, I'll put play game, doesn't matter. Start game, play game, right? Now, let's zoom in a little bit. So I've got my button selected, and if I go onto the action ribbon, what I want to do is to go to another screen. We need that screen first, don't we? So let's insert a new screen. Blank one will do fine. Okay. And we're going to call this one screen game. Always a good idea to call things you'll remember. So back into here and onto my button. Now, let's go back to that action. So a really simple way to just add navigate to a button. On the action ribbon, there's a navigate drop down. And there you are. It says which screen do you want to go to? And how do you want to get there? So you've got a couple of transitions, okay? Things to play around with. I quite like cover right. So let's play. Press my button. And there we go. I'm going to get rid of that dialog box. There we go. We're on the screen game. Okay. So, playing hangman. What the other person has to do is they have to guess a letter, don't they? So they want a box that they can type a letter into, and then have a button they can press guess. Well, it can be a box just like those letters. So let's do a right click and a paste. So there we go. I've got a button. So there we are. I don't want it to be called letter because that's going to confuse me. I'm going to call it guess. Right? So we want to put that over there a bit. We want to have a button here. So they type in a letter and they press the guess. So let's insert a button. Make guess. Excuse me. Right. So what's that button going to do? So this is our first example of using set. Right? So instead of that false, I'm going to type in that set function. And then we've got to make up a name for our variable. So I'm going to call my variable here, I'm going to call it my guesses. Right? So what do we want to put into that variable, into that drawer? Okay, just like Peter showed. We want to put whatever letter they've just guessed. So if we remember, if you look on the left-hand side here, that was called guess. And what we want out of that box is what text is inside that box. So it's called a property, but it's the text of the box rather than the color or the size or something, right? So that's going to save that into there. And then we're going to add in a label. Okay, so that label is going to come down here. So this one here is my guesses. So this text box here isn't going to have the text, so get rid of everything, including the quotes. And if I type in MY, there you are, it gives you my guesses. So at the minute, it's blank. So let's press play. Put in the letter A and make a guess. And there you are, the letter A appears. Bit small, we'll fix that in a minute. If I put in the letter B, well, the letter B appears, but it's forgotten the A. That's no good. So what we want it to do, now this is a little bit complicated, but bear with me. What we want it to do is we want it to add that new letter we've guessed onto what we had before. So to add strings together, okay? In maths, you use plus to add numbers together. Well, strings have a different symbol. You use an ampersand. Okay, so that's, you have to press the shift button and press the number 7. And then we're going to put in my guesses. So let's have another play of that. So if I make a guess B, there you are, the B's appeared. Now let's put in another letter. Let's put in a G. And there you are, the G's been added on the front, right? So that was, so this part here is adding those strings together. Right. So I said I was going to make that text big. Let me just quickly do that and then we'll move on to the next bit. They might make lots of guesses, so let's make that a little bit longer. So the next part is once someone's guessed a letter, because hey, B is in Robin, So we should have a B up here. So what we're going to do is I'm going to put all the letters there, and then we'll talk about hiding them. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go for inserting a label. And we're going to make that label, I'm going to do the same trick as before. I'm going to call it answer. And I'm going to go to the home, and we're going to make it big text and centered. Okay. Now, just like before, we had the default text. Well, in this stage, it's not default, it's just called text. So I'm going to click on there, and that shows me that text value. So what I want in there is I want it to look back on the other screen and get the value. So I can type in letter, and there we are. There's letter 1 dot text. Okay. So there's R for the beginning of Robin. So what we're going to do with this one is I'm going to make it a little bit narrower. Right click, and we're going to copy it. And then right click and paste. So they're all going to say R's for the time being. Don't worry, we're going to fix that.
So this is referencing the object that's on a different screen.
Yeah, so you can look at things on other screens. It's really useful. You don't have to have the screen at the front, okay? And when you're naming things, your names have to be unique over the whole app. So just like if you've got 2 kids at school with the same name, it's confusing. Well, apps can't cope with that confusing. So I can't call that letter 5 because I've got a letter 5 up here. So that's why I had to come up with a different name. So my answer there, I'm going to just delete. Right, so this one here, if you see up in the formula bar at the top here, it says letter 1 dot text. Well, I'm going to just change that. I'm just going to quickly tweak that to be a 2. And I'm just going to change that to a 3. That to a 4. And that to a 5. So there we are. We've got the word. Okay. Let's move that down a bit because otherwise they're all going on top of each other. But that's kind of cheating. You don't want to see the word until they've guessed it. Right? So things being shown in a game or in any app, whether it's there or not, is whether it's visible or not. And that's an on-off button. So I can turn that off and it's hiding, turn it back on, and it comes back. If I click on the word visible, it'll appear in the formula bar at the top here. And this is called a Boolean value. True or false, yes or no. Okay, is the kind of style. So computers don't have yes and no, they have true and false instead in lots of places. So what we want to know is the letter R in my guesses? Right? So the letter R is, if we remember, is letter 1 dot text. So is that one in my guesses? Well, no, it's not. So hence it doesn't show. Okay, so just to prove that it is going to work, I'm just going to guess the letter R. And there you are, the R appeared. So I'm going to do that to all of them. Okay.
That's very good, Laura.
I have is Matthew on the call? Him and I came up with this in a call together. It was once we worked it out, it's quite a nice idea.
Yeah, no, it's nice, and I think that there's enough technical pieces in here, but it's not super technical. Robin, are you understanding what you're seeing so far?
Yes.
That's great.
Well done.
It's quite good.
You understand it too, Leo?
Yeah, it's quite amazing, I find.
Yeah.
Because it's quite simple, because when I first heard about it, I thought it was going to be quite hard to make. But then, if you look at it now, it's quite easy.
Yeah. Once you understand the idea of some of the logic, it's not too horrible.
It's a lot simpler than I thought. Yeah.
Now we're not drawing the picture of a hangman, but when I come to show you the how I get the pictures in, if I get enough time, I'm realizing I'm running out of time.
Don't worry.
Okay. It's a really nice challenge to actually make sure that you're not doing anything too horrible.
Yeah.
So, if we now come back into here, and I put in an O. Now, one thing to be aware of, okay, and is where I'm actually there's a couple of things here. If I put the letter I in lowercase, oh, it works. It didn't last time I did it. Okay.
It can be a bit hit and miss, that sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. That's so there are some times when actually you have to make sure the case is going to work. I wasn't expecting that to work, I have to confess. So that's working, right? But my problem is I'm having to delete this box. I'm having to delete the letter that's in there. So I could end up guessing one letter twice because I pressed on it twice.
Mm.
So the bit I'm going to do next is I'm just going to do what's called a reset, which means empty it, set it back to the default. Okay, so I'm going to reset guess. So let's put in a Z. And there you are, it's empty. So it's ready for my next guess. So you don't have to do that, but it helps. Right. So what we're going to do in here, how many guesses do you think we should have? We should have. How many guesses do you think they should be allowed?
How many guesses, Leo?
10, I think.
Yeah, 10.
10. You're tough. So what we're going to do is we're going to count how many guesses they've done. Okay. So I'm going to call it guess count. Now, my guesses is text. It's a string of letters. Okay. And there are some functions you can do to things like strings of letters. And one of the really simple functions, okay, is called len. And it'll tell you how many letters are in a string. So if I put len and then into there, I say, what's the length of my guesses? So what that's going to do is save into guess count how many letters I've guessed. Okay. So if the guess count gets to 10, as you've just said, we're going to put up game over. Right? What am I at the minute? 1, 2, 3, 4, 7. That's okay. So I'm going to add a picture. Now, in order to add a picture, I'm going to go to View, Media. I don't know why my media is not doing the new version, but hey,
I didn't know there was a new one.
There's a new panel that's appeared.
Okay.
So I'm going to add in both pictures while I'm here. I've picked up 2 pictures. I did a search on Google. But you could draw your own pictures and then scan them in. That'd be quite cool. So what we're going to do is we're going to insert of the media an image. And that picture is going to be Game Over. So make sure you name your pictures good names, because that's what's going to appear here. So you need to name the actual file. But this one, we're going to do visible again. So this one, we're going to do, I've lost visible. There's visible. So it says true. But what we're going to do is we're going to do guess count. So we only want this to show if the guess count is greater than or equal to 10. Okay. So let's put in some letters that aren't in Robin. And there you are, it comes up with Game Over. Okay. We want a way to do it just to reset the game so we can have another go. So that's just what we're going to do now so that we can reset this and then do a winner picture. So I'm going to insert a button. Okay, so we need to undo these things. Okay, so I'm going to set my guess count to 0. And I'm going to set my guesses. So this is text. So you put in 2 quotes to make it an empty string. So there's no text in there at all. To empty the drawer. Yeah? So that puts the number 0 in the guess count drawer. And this puts an empty string into there. Right? And we want to be able to put in a new word. So this time we're going to do a navigate. And the screen we're going to navigate to is setup. And let's just pick a transition. Okay. So let's just test that. Oh, I could put a name on it, but I'm trying to save time here. Click on that, and there we are. We're back on here again. And if I press play game, there we are. We're ready to start guessing again. So let's actually guess it right this time. It's going to spell your name backwards.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's not a U in it, is it? See, I told you I can't spell.
It should spell nibble.
Nibble. There you go. So what we want now is
Let's say you've won.
to say you've won.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, this part, unfortunately, this part is not a friendly piece of code. My apologies. I've tried to keep it as simple as possible. But what you want to do is you want to count how many letters are visible. Yeah? So if there's 5 that are visible, you've won. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah.
So what we're going to do is we've got to remember the semicolon. Always remember the semicolons. We're going to do another set.
I don't get the then.
So we're going to put this in as our score. Right? Now what we're going to do is we're going to put in answer 1. Oops, 1. No, it's not that. It's answer _1. Let's get it right. Dot visible. Okay. And what this basically, we're going to add them together because visible is a true false, but actually it's a 0 or a 1. So it's when it's visible, it equals 1, right? So this is 1 plus 1 plus 1 to add on to 5.
I think technically this is really fascinating. This is really, really, really interesting. I didn't even know that that a true or false was. I kind of knew it was a 1 or a not, but I didn't know that it knew it was a 1 or a not.
Shall I tell you what? Neither did I before I did this.
Yeah.
So I've learned some new things. I've learned some new things doing this.
You can also use 2 ampersands, Laura, rather than a plus. So that's the logical.
Yes, because that would give you an and, wouldn't?
But I think the pluses is nice.
I'm trying to keep it to pluses because that's what I think of as being maths.
Yep.
Yeah.
So therefore, it's adding numbers together.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you do the ampersands, Peter, you'll end up with a true at the end.
Yep.
Which possibly it would be another way of doing it. It'd be a nice way of doing it. But then I'd have that'd be another way. Yeah. So do you see? Because of all those things I've put in there, it's put coloured boxes around all the letters that we've referred to. So you can check you've got them all. Yeah. And then we're going to put into here. This is our final piece, I think. I'm going to put in an image.
Okay.
I'm going to make it my winner. And I'm going to make the visible. So we played lots with visible today and lots with set.
Yeah.
Score is greater than or equal to, it'll never get greater than 2 though, so it's going to be equal to, isn't it? It's going to be equal to 5. And it should equal 5. Why doesn't it equal 5? Excuse me a moment. One quick way to find out what's going on is to put up a label.
I think you haven't set
we haven't pressed the button. We haven't pressed the button. So actually,
yeah.
I need to put another guess in there. So let's put in a Z, because, hey, that makes sense. And there we are. It's now added it up, and there's my 5. That's my way of checking what's going on, but it doesn't have to be there, right?
Really good. We've got a winner, I think.
What could make it better is if you have, like, a little place where it counts how many goes you've had and it shows it, because then you know.
Right, okay.
I think
that's a really quick. That's a really good suggestion. And can I just show you really quickly how to do it?
Yeah.
Because do you remember which variable in here is storing how many times you've guessed?
Guess count.
You remember?
My guess is then.
My guess is the len. Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
It's this one here, and that's being stored in a variable called guess count, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
So if I come into here and I put in guess count, yeah, and
it's already there.
It's already there.
There you go.
Wow.
And if I put in another guess, I know I've won, but if I put another guess, you'll see it goes up.
Yeah.
That's extremely simple.
It is, isn't it? It's really clever what you can do with actually not. That's the most complicated piece of code. That bit there.
Yeah.
But if you take that step by step, okay.
Left. That's going
So I'm going to give that a bit of a tidy up. It'd also be nice to put some instructions. You should put some labels in here with some instructions in what to do. But that's niceties.
I mean, that's really. I really like that. I think that we should probably save that and make that specific thing available on GitHub, because that will then align to our video and so on. So if you save that, and we will literally make that one available, because although it's simple, there are some really interesting, interesting things.
Actually, okay. Before we do that, then I will literally give you this version, but I'm going to put a label on that button. I haven't named any of the buttons as well, which is a bit naughty of me.
Fine. I think you should leave it as it is, and then you can do
it as it is.
If there's a version that you want to put on where you've kind of done your souped up version, you know, put that on as well, and we can have them both on. We can have the video version and the kind of like all singing, all dancing version.
Yeah, and if anybody wants to take it and improve it or make it different, I'd really like to see what they do.
Sounds like a good competition for next time. I think, Rory.
Do you think we should? I think that's quite a nice idea. I mean, we've had these kind of competitions and so on, and I think as we kind of build this out, then we will have more people involved. And even if somebody was watching this back at a later date, they could still pick up your app and they could still develop it and so on. The learning kind of goes on. So I have found this absolutely fascinating. How about you, Peter?
I think it was really good.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I think everybody over here thinks it's great.
Good.
Yeah, it's really good.
There's some really positive things in the chat as well. So can I do I'll do a slightly techie review of that. Not much of a techie, just to say that we use variables, which were demonstrated at the start. This is a bit of our learning check. We use the visible property quite heavily to make things appear and not appear, and we talked about true and false, and then interestingly we found that we can actually add up the trues together because true equals 1, so we could add them together. So when we got enough of the right guesses, then we could know that we'd got the value correct. We also use something called reset, which is what you do for things like drop downs and text boxes and so on. And we also use the len function to work out the length of the guesses. And then we also did an exercise where you reset the variables and there was some screen navigations. And I would say that this is actually a really, really good example of an app that a child could genuinely build but learn loads. There's even images in it. It's a brilliant app. I love it. So as you can see, I really enjoyed this project and I hope you did too. I'm sure children will think of different ways of extending this and do things differently. If you like this sort of thing, make sure you like it, and if you want to see the new videos as they come out, make sure you subscribe to it. And if you have any comments about what you've seen, things that you did or didn't understand, then please put them in the comments below. Please be aware that all of the resources that you got for this are in the description, so please make use of that. I'll see you again sometime soon.